All right, well, let's move on to the main event. We had the final ace in the USA matchup here, non-title. The Alpha Konosuke Takeshita defeats the ace Hiroshi Tanahashi in 20 minutes and 37 seconds.
How long?
20 minutes and 37 seconds.
Wow. Okay. Very, very, very emotional match. Big fight feel and presentation. I loved the video package, loved the entrances. Match kicks off, and it was very exciting. I think that this was worked in a style that suited Tanahashi's capabilities at this current time, very much so. Kind of reminded me in a lot of ways. I know that we made some jokes about it, but it really did sort of remind me of the Ric Flair Shawn Michaels match from WrestleMania 24, where you had a guy that's very gifted and capable and young and experienced taking on like this aged veteran who he has history with, he has experience with, he's never beaten him. And kind of orchestrating and laying the match out in a way that accentuates the positives and sort of hides the negatives. And Tanahashi, we've talked about times where he is able to get up for the big match when the time comes, and this was one of those situations where, I don't know if he did a few extra stretches or if it was like any given Sundays they were pumping cortisol into his knees and telling him to get out there and play like he's Lawrence Taylor or whatever the fuck. But he just seemed to move a little bit better, not much better, but a little bit better. He still had a few botches. There was a senton and a crossbody off the ropes. I was like, oh god, it looks so bad. And but they did a great job making me believe. Like Tanahashi at a certain point seemed to start catching Takeshita, kind of bamboozling him. Takeshita seemed out of his element and unready for the attack, the game plan that Tanahashi brought to the forefront. And then they started hitting some really incredible near falls to where I was like, fuck, Tanahashi might pull this out. And I wanted him to win so bad, especially with it being non-title and everything. I'm like, come on, let's have him win here. It's non-title, final US date, and let's have the return match for the belt and do some business. Come on, let's send the people home happy. And I wanted that so bad, but it didn't wind up being that way.
Yeah, the whole crowd wanted him to win. There's, big go ace and Tanahashi chants all throughout the match. And anytime Tanahashi was coming back, yeah, the fans was getting so into it. And kind of a key spot of the match here was Konosuke jumping off the ropes, jamming his knee on a landing. Of course, that was, blood in the water for Tanahashi. He went after the leg, dragon screws, trying to slow him down there. And then he does the twist and shout, high fly flow, like hits it, like Takeshita's on the ground and he hits it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. But no, Takeshita kicked out. But yeah, there was so many great near falls here, and Takeshita was killing this man with knees. And you were joking and saying he's doing the "I'm sorry, I love you" after doing the knees. And yeah, and got to the end there where Takeshita does his version of the high fly flow, and Tanahashi kicks out at one, and the crowd just losing their mind. And then Takeshita just kind of keeps killing him with the knees. He hits the double knees and picks him up, raging fire, and that was it. 1, 2, 3, puts him away.
Yeah, that was a very prolonged period where he just kept hitting him with these running knees, and Tanahashi kept kicking out, but you were sort of waiting for the comeback to show up. And this was a little bit Brock Lesnar-esque, like Suplex City, like continually hitting an offensive move and the guy never coming back. And you're like, fuck, that's so dominant. And that's really what it became. It became like a swan song for Tanahashi, where like he just was eating. That's where it got sad, because it was very fun and very exciting and everything until this section down the final tail stretch where it's like he might not be coming back. And
yeah, it was like after the 50, it's like he's not getting it back up.
You started getting to the point where you're like, hey, stay down, dude. Like you don't need to do this. Like you're the president, bro. I did see who did I troll online? Was it John from Omikaze?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he mentioned that he had utilized the double knees, which I guess are a staple of Hiroshima's. Who, the famous story is like not only did Tanahashi wrestle Takeshita in DDT, he also wrestled Hiroshima when Hiroshima was like the ace, and that's where he made the disparaging remarks about DDT and was very disrespectful to them, and like had to go back and apologize later on and all that stuff. And so there was sort of when Takeshita used those double knees, it was sort of a callback to that whole situation and kind of like a nice little cherry on top, sort of bookended their story together. But I like jumped into his. No one reacted to it, but I thought my shit was funny. I jumped into the responses and I was like, well, actually, that wasn't Hiroshima's move. That was a callback to Sasha Banks hitting the Meteora. But he didn't respond to it. He didn't take the bait. No one else responded to it. I thought my shit was funny. I don't care. But but the match yeah, he just killed him and he never came back. You're waiting for the comeback and it just never happens. And it was dominant. And it was like that was fun for a while it lasted. I think it was, in my personal estimation, probably the best singles match Tanahashi's had in like 3 years. I
Mhm.
liked it. The only other notable singles matches that he's had in several years were like there was a Will Ospreay match for Impact, I think, in the States that people liked that I didn't love. And then he had those two Okada matches, the one in California and then and they were both okay, but I didn't love them. But I felt like this one was special.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think they told a great story. They could have gone the route of, yeah, Tanahashi's gonna get that one last win, or even like the route of like, oh, you just barely beat me, you young whippersnapper. Like you pulled one on me. It was like, no, like clearly Takeshita was the bigger, badder, better, faster wrestler. And Tanahashi is, yeah, the aging veteran that's barely hanging on. And they could have had Tanahashi come back more, but they told the story of like, yeah, now this is not, 10, 15 years ago, whenever that match was in DDT. Like, this is a president. Like, Takeshita is a man. Tanahashi is aging out. And that should have been the story. Like, Takeshita is just a higher peak than Tanahashi is right now. And they display that in the match. The story was perfectly told. And yeah, towards the end, yeah, there was no comeback. It was just the bigger, faster, better wrestler dominating and putting this old veteran away.
Yeah, but it even felt like down the stretch, like, Takeshita, he's been a heel, he's playing a heel, he's got animosity towards Tanahashi, yada yada. And he realized that he was the black hat on this evening, especially with how much love Tanahashi was getting in the States and it being his send-off over here. And I'm a little dubious on that. Like, I know they're saying it's just his last match here, but like, do I really believe that he's never, ever, ever gonna wrestle a match in the United States? Like, possibly, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he pops up on like a fucking Mania weekend show 2 years from now and works a comedy match at WrestleCon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's totally possible. But anyways, down the stretch, it seemed like he was like the fan in him was starting to come out because it did become a little bit of a I'm sorry, I love you. Like he was gaining respect for, the heart, the will, and it Rich is probably listening, and it reminded me of like when Larry Holmes beat the fuck out of Muhammad Ali, and like he's telling the ref, like, "Come on, dude, stop it! I don't want to beat this. I don't want to beat this old man up anymore." Oh man, that's one. I think the referees in New Japan need retraining because so many times I see dudes knocked out, and I'm like, just stop the shit. You know,
Yeah.
Tanahashi needed to be saved from himself on that night.
I had a couple questions here. Doc says, with this being, I believe, Takeshita's fourth American main event, is it safe to say that NJPW sees him as a reliable draw for the company? And do you guys get hyped for all the work the bookers are doing to keep him as a face the fans should rally behind?
I don't think they see him necessarily as a reliable draw. I think they're counting on the idea that he should be a draw based on his exposure in the States and his popularity. But I don't know that it's a proven thing just yet. And I'm not trying to say that in a hater way, but like, I don't know, show me the evidence that when he's added to a card that the house pops. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that that's the case, but I also think that it's a smart move on their part because he's such a great performer. It's giving him as well as the company a lot of exposure. And, that might become the reality. If you continue to put him in the spot and he does well, then yeah, he could become I don't think right now I would call him a reliable draw, but he should be, and he probably will be.
Yeah, and it's not like he is like a TV's top superstar in AEW. Like, yes, he's also incredible and has been pushed more towards upper mid card, but he's not been like a certified main eventer where, like, yeah, his TV power should transfer over to New Japan. But also, I think the TV exposure does help, and also having some top programs in AEW. But yeah, I think also if he stays in AEW and continues to do well there, that drawing power will carry over. Kevin from DC says, what is your opinion as a live attendee when an American New Japan show strays from the norm of the world title going on last, or when the champion comes out first instead of second? I understand Tanahashi's last match in America was a big deal, but it was still weird having Takeshita come out first as the defending never champion.
He wasn't defending champion.
That's right. There was so many people who thought this was a title match just because Takeshita was champion, but they never have announced it as a title match. Tanahashi lost a couple matches before this match. So yeah, it was just a special singles non-title Tanahashi's last US match. And this was the match that drew fans. I mean, there were so many fans that I saw online or that I talked to when I was there that were like, yeah, the reason I came to this show was to see Tanahashi's last US match. There was people
that's the only reason I went.
Yeah, there were several people I talked to the meetup that drove over from St. Louis. They were like, yeah, made this drive. Yeah, I want to see Tanahashi's last match, and that was the key draw here. That was the big attraction. So that should have been the last match. Like, it would have been a disaster had they put that crappy Umino match on last after an emotional, send off for Tanahashi. Like, this was definitely
that would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, this was definitely the right call. Also, it was a last minute thing because up until Showtime, they were advertising this thing as the title match as being the main event. So I'm glad they switched double main evento, put this thing on last. That was the right call, and that was a match that drew people in. That was the emotional match. That building would have been empty had they put the title match on last.